Hello and welcome to the state of Kentucky. I'm Bruce Maples, publisher of Forward Kentucky, and we're really glad to have you with us today. If you are watching us live, thank you for taking the time on a Friday at lunchtime to join us. And if you are watching the recorded version later or listening to the podcast, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to do that. Before we start with our guests today, I have a couple of things to share. If you have ideas or suggestions of topics or people you would like to have us have on the show, you can send that to tips@forwardky.com. And obviously, this is paid for by the members of Forward Kentucky, the people who have paying memberships. So if you would like to support our work, please become a member by going to forwardky.com/join. Basic membership is $3 a month, which is not that much. And we would love to have you help support our work. So we try to cover things that, affect the entire state, but occasionally we go local. We've had Josh Hicks on to talk about his race over around Lexington and Miss Owensby from Northern Kentucky. So today we're going to do something focused on Louisville, but I think it's an interesting story and one that maybe more of you will want to know about. As some of you know, we have a school system here in Louisville. It's the largest in the state, called Jefferson County Public Schools, JCPS. And the board controls the tax rate for the schools. And they voted a tax increase recently. Well, there was a group that got together to put together a petition to put that tax increase on the ballot. If it's not on the ballot, then it just goes into effect. But if it's on the ballot, it can be voted up or down by the voters. And they succeeded. The county clerk verified that their petition was acceptable. And so if you voted in Louisville or in the JCPS area, you saw a question on the back of the ballot about approving or not approving the tax increase. Well, meantime, a number of groups got together to fight the petition and to fight putting it on the ballot and to say that it wasn't valid. And along with that, some of these groups were also pushing on JCPS to do more about racial equity and to improve the way they handled racial school assignments in the system. And so all of this together, created quite a bit of drama. And then this week, we learned that one of the state representatives, Jason Nemus, who represents part of Eastern Louisville and Oldham County, actually allowed the person putting the petition together into the Republican voter database. And that just added more drama. So today, we've got two guests with us, Gay Adelmann and Denita Wright. And we're going to talk about all this drama. But first, Gay and Denita, I have to be honest, sometimes I feel like there are more activist groups in Jefferson County than Donald Trump has LLCs. And so I would like to take a moment to go through some of the acronyms and some of the groups. So for those who are watching, JCPS is the school system. JCTA is Jefferson County Teachers Association, which is the local teachers union, or at least one of the local teachers union. Their PAC that endorses people is Better Schools Kentucky, so BSK. So those are the three that I want to throw out there to start with. Now, Gay, I know you founded Dear JCPS some time ago, which was for parent feedback in the school system. And then you also founded Save Our Schools Kentucky, which was primarily aimed at the legislature and stopping charter schools and some of the other things they were doing there. So I know about those two. Denita, why don't you give me a little bit of background on your activist groups, especially as applied to this?
Well, I was the interim chair of the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. And I am now the facilitator of the CWLNA, which is the Coalition for West Louisville Neighborhood Associations.
Okay.
So you ask why are there so many groups? Because Kentucky is the most corrupt city or state in the nation. Did you know that? They did a study on it. Harvard
I
Law
read
did
that.
a study on it. So it's needed, and more. The more, the better.
So the Kentucky Alliance, say the full name again.
Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression.
Right. That's normally just abbreviated as Kentucky Alliance, or even just the Alliance.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that one. Yeah. And it's not just concerned about schools. I mean, it's got many different things that it's working on.
Yes. Yes. Kentucky Alliance is a full-fledged activist organization, and the education part is associated with what's called the People's Agenda. The People's Agenda has 9 components to it, and the Education Committee is one of those components, in which Gay Adelmann is taking the lead on that. But she's doing a great job. The other components have to do with housing, workers' rights, the human civil rights, and the justice system, the LMPD and justice system. So it's got a lot of working components to it.
So the People's Agenda is something put out or sponsored by Kentucky Alliance?
Yes, it's up under the umbrella of the Kentucky Alliance.
Okay, good. Okay, let me share this before I forget. For those who are watching on Facebook or YouTube, if you comment, we can see the comments and we might even share them. And if you've got questions, please share those as well. So let me do a Rachel Maddow kind of trick right now and say, okay, I did this layout at the beginning. Is there anything in my explanation of the situation that I got wrong or that needs to be expanded?
I had something, I'm glad you asked that question, because there is something that I heard you say that I want to make sure I clarify very, very clearly. You said there were a couple of groups that were organizing to put the petition together to put the vote on the ballot. And I want to differentiate Dear JCPS from the privatizer Tea Party group that was the lead behind the petition. It wasn't until the 11th hour that Dear JCPS took a stand and solicited people to sign our pledge. And that pledge was to stand with the Black allied organizations, Black-led and Black allied organizations that had not yet come out in support of this tax increase. We were moving too fast. And so I did gather signatures. I knew that I did not do that in any way that would have put the petition, the tax increase, at risk, because we had already heard that the Tea Party had gathered 40 some odd thousand signatures and they only needed 35,000 signatures. So the window, it was more to put a marker out there, to be an ally, to be an accomplice with these organizations that are saying, we do not support this tax increase, because we needed the district to come to the table. We needed to make sure these voices had a seat at the table, so that what needed to happen, the money was going to be spent in a way that the community supported. Because I also want to point out that the reason we are here in this moment, the reason that this tax measure was passed by our board, is because this is what the voters have been demanding of their elected officials. This is why we elected these individuals to take these courageous positions, because when you propose a tax increase, you probably are not going to get reelected. That is one way to put your political career in jeopardy. So we, the community, the taxpayers, and the parents of students in JCPS, gave them the courage by showing up at board meetings for years on end and making these demands. And they're finally delivering on these demands, because we have new leadership and we have this window of opportunity. So they're doing what the community wants. And so the Tea Party group being outside, the chair not even living in Jefferson County, not even being subjected to these increased taxes, they are different than the work that Dear JCPS has been doing. I put out a pledge the night before the signatures were due, to just draw a line in the sand and say, we're not ready. If anybody else feels the same way, which, by the way, this is the same pledge that we tried to get launched in March and April. We knew this was coming even before the board passed the tax increase in May. We knew this petition would be coming, so we tried to get ahead of it. And so this is the same message that we wanted to put out there earlier, so we could frame the narrative and position ourselves as pro-public education, because the Tea Party petition was anti-public education. They're the privatizers. They're the ones who want to take money out of our schools and spend it on incarceration and policing and those types of things. And we're out here saying divest, invest. Divest from policing and invest in our schools.
Okay, so let me make sure that for anybody watching that we clarify this a little bit more. The anti-tax increase petition was led by the president of the local Tea Party organization.
Correct.
Who doesn't live in a JCPS area. She lives in Anchorage. And they did their petition both the traditional way with paper forms and clipboards, but they also had an online petition, which I guess I knew, but it shocked me when I read more about it this week that they were allowed to turn in a spreadsheet, basically, and who knows who put what on that spreadsheet. Okay, so that's their petition. And then you were working on trying to get the school board to pledge to take a stand on certain racial issues and equity issues. And that was long before this all started. That was back before COVID even. And pushing them to do that. And then, just so that I'm clear, when the petition started and the tax increase looked like it was in trouble, you went to them and said, look, you're assuming that this is going to pass, and you haven't done the work talking to the neighborhood groups, talking to the communities, talking to people like Denita to get your story across and to hear what they have to say about where the money should go. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Well, see, Gay is a part of the Kentucky Alliance People's Agenda Education Committee. That's what she's supposed to do. She's doing exactly what she's supposed to do under that particular committee.
Right. So Denita, as part of the Kentucky Alliance and also the West Louisville organization, do you agree? Did you feel sort of shut out of the whole tax increase discussion?
Again, we do not have. I was the chair last year. There's another chair. There's co-chair. Okay. Let's get that straight. But I'm still, Kentucky Alliance is my heart. So I am on the Kentucky Alliance the judicial committee, which takes. Oversees the LMPD and all that. I am, and that's another component again for the People's Agenda. To get to your question, where we shut out, yes, because we didn't we never had a seat at the table. Yes, we have representatives. We have representatives called school board members, that are supposed to be our voice. But anytime the people are frustrated and school board members are doing things that draws a crowd of people who are against what they're doing, we feel our voice is lost. So in order to get we understand the school board members' places. They are to also protect JCPS in order to give free public school education to our children. But they also need at that table, they need the voice of the people. The parents, I'm speaking the parents, and most importantly, Bruce, I don't know how to stress this. Most importantly, the people that should be at that table, that should be seated at that table, are students and parents, as well as teachers and school board members. And we're not. So
I get the impression from reading some of your materials and from looking, Gay, at some of your pledge work, that you were concerned that even if this tax increase went through, that the monies wouldn't necessarily be spent where they needed to be spent to address equity issues. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So give me an example of that.
Well, okay, so when we were trying to be part of the conversation about strategy and messaging and getting out into the community, student assignment was still on the schedule to be voted on in this summer in August.
Right.
And so when we first started working with the district on the tax increase strategy back in December, Latasha Harrison and I, the president of the Louisville PTO, Latasha Harrison and I sat down with Dr. Polio and talked about how can we position this tax increase that will be a win-win for everyone. And really equity was the issue back then, even before the pandemic and this movement. We were leading. The district was leading in equity work. So we knew that if we wanted to end, there's a lot of talk, quote unquote, end busing, and that's a narrative that we can talk about on another show, but that's the kind of language that some of the community is pushing for. So when we sit down with that community and we have that conversation, part of the one of the big barriers is we can't just stop busing students out of the West End because we've closed those schools. We've allowed their third floors to become condemned. They're in really bad condition. They don't have good HVAC to go back in a post-COVID environment. We have to invest in our West End schools. So the only way because the district is so tapped out on its borrowing ability, the only way we can truly build the schools that we need to build and quote unquote end busing is to get this tax increase. So when we saw that student assignment was coming and they had a proposal on the table, we wanted the community to be part of that conversation. We wanted the community to see this, and I want to show you this. This is the high school student assignment map. So if you look at it, I live out here in the yellow block. Oh wait, I live out here in the yellow block. So when I look at this map, I only focus in on my part of town because that's all that really concerns me, unless I'm not satisfied with my part of town, and then I look and see what the other alternatives are. And that's how we ended up at the academy at Shawnee. My son was a person who wanted to do engineering type work, STEM type work, and there were only 3 high schools. So we toured Shawnee and we chose Shawnee. But as I spent time in the West End, learning, hearing from other parents and students that attended that school what some of their barriers and challenges were, I studied this map from their perspective, and I realized we bus this community out of their neighborhood. This is the only community that bears the burden of diverse schools. And so we need to not only make it equal by building quality schools in the West End so that everyone has the ability to attend a school close to home. And that was part of the proposal. That's the dual resides piece of it. But if everyone in the West End takes the district up on it, we won't have enough seats. We have to build the schools. So just to make it equal, we have to build the schools. But we want more. We want equity. We think that it's time for people outside of the West End we need to flip the script. It's time for those of us outside of the West End to also be willing to travel, to be in a school further from our home, because a lot of us do have transportation. A lot of us do have flexible jobs. A lot of us have the ability to take a child to school if they miss the bus. Our families in the West End, we've put them over a barrel, and it's time for us to turn it around. So we want to get into that conversation.
So you all have pushed on Dr. Polio and on the school board. And I know that you've had multiple conversations with Dr. Polio. And now, of course, we're in this whole drama about the petition and is it going to be thrown out and so on and so forth. So let's assume, just for right now, let's assume the petition is ultimately thrown out. The tax increase passes. Mm-hmm. And JCPS has, not enough money, but more money than they have now. What are some things that you think you've accomplished, and this is for both of you, and some things that you think still need to be accomplished? So tell me any victories, any wins that you've had. Denita, let's start with you.
Well, let's start with Gay first, because Gay is, again, she's on this education committee. I am, I sit in on these committees, but Gay has, she's in this committee. I only sit in on, so let's start with her first, and then I would like to speak on it though.
All right, Ms. Gay.
All right, thank you. I'm going to start with the near-term wins first, and I would like to also point out that we wanted to start this pledge that was a pro-public education pledge in March or April. Latasha and I actually had Stand with JCPS pledge out there in support of the tax increase, and we were coalition building. We were looking for other organizations to get on board. We took it to the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools, which is another existing coalition that Dear JCPS and the Kentucky Alliance make up 2 of the 7 voting organizations. And that coalition had a quorum, and we decided to move forward with the pledge and to get our message out. And somehow along the way, that work kept getting derailed. And so we have been shut out of the conversation from that time on. So I hear a lot of people now saying, why is the district finally getting out there with the vote yes message? That's frustrating for me, because we've been trying to get out there with that message, but the consulting firm that the district hired thought that the best strategy was to wait. And unfortunately, in addition to making the district wait on their marketing campaign, they also forced those of us that brought all of this this grassroots movement to fruition here in Louisville, Kentucky, with Breonna Taylor front and center, a JCPS graduate, say her name, right here in our own hometown, with a student assignment plan on the table and a tax increase on the table. This is our moment to flip the script, not only for JCPS, but for Kentucky and for the United States. We've got Mitch McConnell here on our ballot. So, we could really use the next 10 days to get voters out and get them excited about a tax increase, because this is how we're going to flip the script, but also about the school board candidates, because we have to make sure we keep Tea Party candidates off of the ballot this year as well. We've got some out there running. But back to your question, the wins that we got, we were able to get the district to conduct a REAP, which is the Racial Equity Analysis Protocol of the student assignment plan. So they held a public meeting on October 7th, a little better late than never, we say. So they did hold this REAP. So it is out there for people to listen in on, everybody discussing how the student assignment plan in its entirety is inequitable. They did bits and pieces of it, and they kicked the can down the road for another month. They said, oh, we've done that, and I Open Records did, and I was told, no, we haven't. So it took another month for us to figure out where we were not communicating, and that's how we were able to get the REAP. And we've asked for them to present this information to the community through realtors and through PTAs and those types of things. And I actually have my first meeting this afternoon with the consulting firm, the same meeting that I've been trying to get since March and April. So and then we got them to print some vote yes yard signs. This is one that I did, but we got them to print some vote yes yard signs, and I just picked them up this morning. So now we've got a campaign. Now we have a chance. We've got sign up pages where people can sign up to volunteer at thepeoplesagenda.net. So these are all recent wins, and there's still time. 10 days is an eternity. If it weren't for the early voting, the early voting is kind of what kicked us in the rear when it came to the Charles Booker campaign. And it's possible that it's still too late for us to save this tax measure as well. So the people I'm talking to, I'm saying let's start planning for next year or the year after that, because we're going to still need, even if this passes, we're still going to need the tax increase. So they did not ask for as much as we had wanted them to. We want a nickel tax. The next thing we need is a nickel tax. So this isn't over. Get ready for another campaign just like this, and maybe next time they'll actually let the grassroots lead, because we know what we need and we know how to communicate it to the community, and we know how to turn out our voters. So let us. And can I just say one more thing about longer term victories? We've been able to prevent charter schools, right? We've been able to prevent vouchers. We've avoided a state takeover of our district. We have gotten rid of an education commissioner that was anti-JCPS. We've gotten rid of a governor that was anti-JCPS. These are things that the community rising up, showing up in Frankfurt, this is all connected, and we're just getting started.
So again, to answer your question, the People's Agenda Education Committee makes them listen,
Right.
And it's a shame that we have to make them listen for better education. We're all in this same boat. I had to explain that to a member of the JCPS employee system, that we're not fighting against better education. We're fighting for better education. And
right.
I hope we're on the same page.
So you've got some things that you want to accomplish going forward. Gay, you laid some of those out. Denita, what do you see as goals for either Kentucky Alliance or specifically for the Education Committee?
I think we need to also let them know that not only will they have to listen to us, but that they can be replaced. So the future goals is to let them see that they can be replaced if they do not start listening to us. If they don't give us a seat at the table, we will have them replaced.
I normally try to let the people on the call do the, most of the commenting, but I want to make one or two quick comments myself. First of all, Gay, I'm really excited to see that sign. I would have been more excited to see it a month ago when early voting started.
Yes.
In my neighborhood, there's, 3 or 4 of those little vote no with the X thing out on the street in front of people's homes. There's nothing there's nothing saying vote yes. And up at the school, which is right up the street from my home, there are these little signs that say support public schools or support JCPS. And I'm like, well, yeah, everybody does that. It has nothing to do with the tax increase, and it doesn't say it out loud. And so I'm with you in having been very disappointed in the lack of work on this. I think frankly that they maybe thought that the petition was going to get thrown out and they wouldn't have to do all this. And yes, who wants to talk about a tax increase? I get that. But by the same token, how do you frame it? Denita's right. You don't frame it about a tax increase. You frame it about, this is our children. This is what this is our future. Mm-hmm. And it's time for us to step up. And by the way, the state is not, because of COVID, the budget's going to get whacked. And so we're going to have to take our future into our own hands and do something about it.
Yep.
I'm really excited to have both of you on here. I'm excited to see what's going on. I do want to have you both back later. Denita, I want to learn more about the Kentucky Alliance. I mean, I know that it's been out there, but I don't know enough about it, and I would like to learn more.
Okay.
And Gay, you and I have talked many times, so I know some of what is going on there. I want to have a show where we don't focus on the tax increase and where we focus on the future. And that would be, and Gay, you can bring your visuals, and hold them up and everything about the future.
We can't even do board meetings, so I got to get my visuals in somewhere.
That's right. That's right. The other thing is, and this is purely speculative, but I'd like to close with this. Actually, it's 2 questions. One, how much damage do you think it did to the petition and to Mr. Nemes for that coming out that he let somebody into the Republican voter database? Do you think that's going to be a problem for him?
Apparently not, because JCPA reconsidered his endorsement for about a day and then decided to stay with him because he had done more good things than he had done bad things. But that's not how you evaluate candidates. You evaluate candidates compared to could somebody else do better? And the answer is yes. And so we're endorsing his opponent as well as some of the school board candidates that are out.
Okay. The other question, and again, this is speculative, what do you think is going to happen with the petition?
I think you're right that the firm thought it was going to get thrown out, and so they must know something. I've been watching the hearing, but it's really just fact-finding and depositions at this point until I hear the closing arguments and to see if they pick up on the same things I think are essential. It's really hard to know what they think they've got that's the deal, you know. I think that may be why they've been laying low.
So
okay, well, can I clarify one thing? When Gay says we're endorsing, Gay, could you tell him who we are?
Yes. Okay. So, Dear JCPS is the 501c4 that is doing the lead. We are the lead organization for the coalition, so that we can do the work under 501c4, because many of our coalition members are not 501c4. So we want to be distinct about when I say we are endorsing, I'm referring to the Dear JCPS.
Yes, you need to. Yes.
But also we are working with a federal PAC too, so we have some federal names on our endorsement list as well.
Okay.
We're ready to go.
Okay, so so this is Gay and Dear JCPS and not the Kentucky Alliance. Who are you endorsing for that seat?
For Margaret Plattner against Jason Nemus. Is that who you're asking?
Okay, that's one. And then school board.
For school board, definitely Sarah McIntosh for District 7, which is Chris Brady's old district. He's not running for re-election. And then Jody Hurt is running against Chris Kolb. Unfortunately, Chris Kolb did not support the Coalition for the People's Agenda, and Jody Hurt did. And he's in the Highlands and Crescent Hill area.
Okay. So if the tax increase fails, if the petition is not thrown out and the vote is negative, what do you do? I mean, that just puts it back to where it is, right? And then you got to move forward.
So if it doesn't pass, instead of getting the 7 cents, they still do the 4%. So they're still going to get probably half of what they were trying to get. And so that's part of the narrative that's not even being communicated. We're telling people it's an extra 7 cents on the $100, but that's the whole thing. And the difference is more like 4 cents on the $100. So we're not even marketing it in the right terminology. But if it fails and it's not thrown out, we need to go back to the drawing board and just keep doing it again, and also looking for revenue in other sources. We never need to stop looking for revenue in other sources.
Yep.
My fear is that it'll get thrown out but still fail at the ballot box, and then the community knows that it went through even though they said otherwise, and we didn't do the right amount of marketing to get a yes from the. We wanted to do this in the public, in the light of day, because we want the community to support our schools. This is our best chance to get out and tell the story. So I hoped it made it on the ballot. I wasn't going to cheer for it, but I hoped it made it on the ballot because we were ready to tell the story. We're ready to have that conversation, and this would have been a great opportunity.
Well, whether it happens or not in 2021, let's hope we have a vaccine, and then we can all get back out there and knock on doors and tell people, support your schools.
Right.
Denita Wright, Gay Adelmann, thank you both for being with us today. I think it's been very informative. It certainly has helped me to understand things better. So thank you both for the work you do, and thank you for the hard work you do.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Next week, there's a possibility that we're going to have one of my favorite political analysts on the show, and we're going to have a pre-election look next Friday. We're going to talk about all the races that are really in play, and we're going to see just where we've got some chances to make some differences. So join us next week. Thanks for watching today, and we'll see you next week.